continent called Pangaea, sitting in the northern hemisphere. The rest of the world was covered in a bright blue, warm, sparkly sea. Had you been standing right there 350 million years ago, in the early Carboniferous period, you would have been standing on the bottom of that bright blue, warm, sparkly sea, surrounded by early Carboniferous sea creatures, crinoids, wibbly-wobbly sea lilies attached to the sea floor, and brachiopods, small shellfish wibbling around on the bottom. You'd have been surrounded by trilobites, armoured sea lice with 8 legs, the forerunners of spiders and crabs, and massive outcrops of giant coral, and nothing else. There were no fish in the sea, there were no sharks in the sea, there were no dolphins, and no great whales. Now, when the crinoids and the brachiopods and the trilobites died, their bodies just lay on the bottom. And because there was nothing in the sea to eat them, over thousands of years, they built up in great layers. And with billions of tons of seawater pushing down them for millions and millions of years, they were all squashed together to form this. This is limestone. Limestone is a sedimentary rock made up of billions and billions of dead bodies. Now, the layers of limestone lay on the bottom of the sparkly, warm blue sea for millions and millions of years. And then, deep inside the earth, the volcanoes started to rumble and grumble, and the pressure built up and pushed the layers of limestone up and up to form the hill that you're now standing inside. And as the layers of limestone were pushed upwards, some massive empty spaces were torn into the fabric of the rock. Deep, dark fissures or cracks were driven through the middle of the hill. These spaces remained dark and empty until 100 million years ago, when those volcanoes grumbling away deep inside the earth started to push upwards superheated water. And in that superheated water were dissolved minerals, just like sugar dissolves in a hot cup of tea. Minerals from deep inside the mantle of the earth. Gold, silver, lead, tin, copper, iron, zinc, cobalt, lithium, palladium, iridium, molybdenum, neodymium, omnium, protonium, plutonium, uranium, titanium, all sorts of stuff. Now, the superheated water was forced up through the rock, flooded into all these massive empty spaces, surged down the fissures, filling up all the cracks and crevices, until all of the empty space was filled with pressurized water. Then, over tens of thousands of years, the porous limestone worked like a tissue. It sucked the water away and left the minerals behind. Down here, 3 specific minerals. Fluorspar. You're going to see fluorspar as you walk through. You'll notice that the tunnel walls and ceilings glitter as if they're covered in frost. There's a white milky crystal that you're going to see in lumps and veins in the rock. This is called calcite. But the most important mineral down here, from our point of view, a substance called lead sulfide, a sparkling, glittering, beautiful silver grey crystal that was packed into all the empty space. So try to imagine for a moment all of the empty space you're standing in, all of the empty space I'm standing in, all of the massive empty space you can see around us was once one solid lump of this bright, sparkly crystal. You're not going to get to see any of this, because this is what the miners were after, and they took every single scrap of it away. Now, mining in the early days was done by families. The family worked in here were the Walker family. This place is known as Walker's Grove, named for the family, and grove is a Saxon word for a mine. The Walkers, like all miners, drove their shafts vertically down from the surface, and when they broke into the top of the chambers, they simply mined the lead sulfide out from the top downwards. They did that by taking a pickaxe, smashing the crystal to smithereens under their feet, shoveling the bits into a kibble, into a bucket, sending the kibble topside for the women to process. As the miners worked their way downwards, they stripped the lead sulfide off of the rock. They didn't mine through the rock if they didn't have to. There was no value to it. They simply took a big chisel and an iron-headed hammer called a bucker, and they chipped and chiseled and chopped and scratched and scraped the lead sulfide off, following the shape of the rock. And that has left us with this. This is natural rock. This is what rock really looks like before the weather gets at it. Out there on the surface, the wind, the rain, the ice and the snow over thousands of years, they erode the rock and they crag it so that it looks flat and jaggedy. But as you look around in here, you can see natural rock isn't flat and jaggedy. It's lumpy, it's bumpy, it's curvy. It's got great big bits that stick out into mid-air, and it's got deep dark holes where the bats now live. Now the Walker family broke into this chamber 92 feet up there, and they took 120 years to work all of the lead sulfide out. And you can still see the scratches and scrapes that their tools left behind, and the black sooty marks their candles burned into the rock 300 years ago. But in 1690, they discovered what miners call a pipe vein. Now a pipe vein is a deposit of lead sulfide, but it's not a vertical deposit in a chamber. A pipe vein is a horizontal deposit of lead sulfide in a fissure or a crack that meanders its way through the hill. I'm going to lead you down the pipe vein. That's going to take us to the Great Chamber. So I'm going to continue to tell you the story of how the earth was made. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the point of no return, which sounds terribly bad. What it means is right now, if you don't want to do the 175 stairs, the half-a-mile hike with the low ceilings, you simply turn round, go back up the drift shaft. My friend Riley will tick you off the list at the top, and you carry on your day. Here is the thing. Once you follow me into the pipe vein around the corner, you cannot later on turn round and come back out again. Riley is coming in with her tour, and there isn't room for people to pass side by side in the tunnels, okay? I'm just going to pop over here.